This is the Final Word Women's Ashes Daily, day 3 of the Test match at Trent Bridge. Jeff Lemon and Bharat Sundaresan standing on the turf of Trent Bridge Cricket Ground itself. Day 3, plenty happened. You have to tell us all about it in the space of 30 seconds.
On a day that Tammy Beaumont reigned supreme, made the highest score ever by an English woman in cricket and became the first English woman to make a double hundred in Test cricket and all other formats, England couldn't get past Australia. They fell 10 runs short. Natsiva Brunt played well, got out. Ash Gardner took some wickets. Talia McGrath came on very late in the day but cleaned up the tail, and Australia finished 10 runs ahead. And then Beth Noni and Phoebe Litchfield just came and tore the English new ball attack apart. They were scoring at over 6 and over at one point. They finished 92 runs ahead. Game on.
Very good. That was under, I don't know exactly what it was. I think that was just on, but maybe it was like even less than 30 seconds.
Really?
People can let us know. Let us know in the comments if you want to run the timer over it. The show is brought to you by Westfield, both London and Stratford City. The two, there's one's in the east. Should it be called Eastfield? I don't know. That's a question for them. More extra, less ordinary. Now, today it was England resuming. They'd been going like the clappers. They were 218 for 2. They'd been scoring at more than 4 and over. Big booming in-swinger from Darcy Brown, first ball of the day, hits Natsiva Brunt in front, given out. Everybody's getting excited, and then it's reviewed and it's found to be missing the leg stump, that huge in-swing, taking it past the leg stump. And from that point on, it was just like they picked up where they left off yesterday, England, and started smashing everybody around.
Yeah, Danny White especially came out playing her first ever Test match, and it felt like she was playing a T20 game. She was driving the ball, got off the mark with a beautiful cover drive, powerful cover drive, I should say. But that's also the period where Australia pushed back, taking the new ball. I think they took the new ball, second new ball, only in the 99th over, the 100th over. So 19 was late after it was available, and that's when they bowled the spinners at Danny White and Tammy Beaumont in particular, and they smashed them around. And Tammy Beaumont took strike again. She finished 100 not out yesterday, I'm going to say, like a clean 100.
Yeah,
and
exactly,
so,
100 not out.
Yeah, so she comes and doubles that score today and a bit more. But she looked in complete control. I mean, there were times when she edged a few deliveries. She got maybe a little lucky. Alyssa Healy said that as well. But overall, completely in control. And her partners kept providing the impetus at the other end. Natsiva Brunt started off from where she left off last night, but then gets out tough, like I said, it's quite rather innocuously. I don't know why I started speaking Hindi in between anyway. It's
Why
just
not?
all
Why
the,
not? I mean,
why not?
Some
I know.
people watching this show will prefer that, and feel free to dip back and forth.
Yeah, काफी innocuous delivery था, उस पे out हो गई Natsiva, like, you know, समझ गए आप क्या बोले, Natsiva Brunt. But no,
I thought it was a pretty good piece of bowling.
It was.
I mean, Ashley Gardner stood up when they really needed somebody. Not just today, but yesterday as well. Like, Heather Knight races to a 50, and Gardner gets her with a little feather behind. And then, Natsiva Brunt, she's on 78. She's been throwing the bat. She's slashing the ball through point, backward point. She's clipping through mid-wicket. She's playing the pull shot. I mean, she's such a powerful player, especially when she's up and running. And she looked like she was up and running, and that luck was with her as well. She sliced a few through the gully and so on that almost went to hand and didn't, and might have on another day and all the rest of it. But she gets the ball from Gardner that's turning in. It's a slightly fuller pitch. She's shaping to cut. It keeps a bit low and it turns in a long way, and she throws the bat at it and gets that edge through the Healy, which was a very good catch.
It was a very good catch. And by innocuous, I mean the moment in terms of it happened against the run of play. The wicket, it didn't look like the wicket was coming, and that's when Ash Gardner, like she did once again in the innings as well, broke through. And I love watching Alyssa Healy keep her hands move so well with the ball, and you know, it barely makes a sound, especially when you're sitting outside like I was. When a keeper takes the ball, often you can hear the thud into the gloves. But when Alyssa Healy takes the ball, it just kind of disappears into her. It's like, ooh, what happened to the ball? That's a sign of a very clean and neat keeper.
Are you saying she could produce a coin from behind your ear?
I think she could, or at least a cricket ball behind. That's how good she is with the gloves. And Australia kept fighting back. You look at the overall, and I was having a chat with our colleague Scott Bailey earlier, it looks like England have dominated this game, weirdly enough, but still they fell 10 runs behind Australia. I think mainly, it has to do with the makeup of the two batting lineups. So Australia bats so deep, so even though they were 6 for 238, England weren't completely in front because they still had to get rid of Gardner and Sutherland, which didn't happen.
It looks like they are, like conventionally on the scoreboard, they are at 6 down, but they're not really because of the relative strength. And also the number of close calls and missed chances that there weren't sort of drops per se, but there were ones that weren't appealed for. There were ones that didn't quite go to hand. There were ones where the slips were in the wrong position. There were any number of opportunities they had to take wickets where if they weren't switched on enough to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, there were balls flying through in between the slip fielders. There was like the appeal yesterday could have gone their way. So Australia created chances. They created opportunities. And it's a kind of pitch where it's not slow and dry. It's dry, but the ball still comes on. There's decent bounce. So I think maybe they'll look back, and there were periods where they were ragged in the field as well. There were misfields all around the ground. It was a really, really hot day, the hottest day of the Test match. Maybe that was a factor. But especially in that second innings, or second session, I should say, before they started getting a few wickets, Talia McGrath was brought on very late. She was the 8th bowler to be used, which I was surprised by. Yesterday, we spoke about how she hadn't bowled a single ball. But even today, she came on late, bowled just 2 overs, and then was taken off, and then was brought later on with the second new ball, and that's when she cleaned up the tail. So Australia would feel like maybe they could have finished with 70, 80 run lead. But look, that's the thing, right? When you have someone like Tammy Beaumont controlling the innings from the other end, the way she was, that's nothing you can do, really.
So the periods of play, we'll come to Tammy Beaumont in a second, but it's one of the things with captaincy, right, that maybe it's instinct, whatever it is, but it's about pulling the right rein at the right time. And of course, it's much easier to do in retrospect. So after the new ball becomes due, Healy continues with spin with Alana King and Ash Gardner. And I thought at the time that was a decent move because she had Dunkley out there looking quite tentative against the spin, not being sure what to do. I imagine the rationale was that if you get the new ball on, it's harder, it might be easier to hit away, it'll race to the boundary more quickly, make it harder to score for a player who likes to hit boundaries. And it works because they tie Dunkley down for a bit, and in the end she comes down and then tries a huge heave across the line. One of those, I mean, there's this thing in cricket, right, where you try an attacking shot and get out and you're a bad player, but if you hit that same shot, you're a good player. But that shot was one where the execution of it was so bad. It was nothing like the way that she would have wanted to hit the ball because she swings at it so hard. She's not looking at the ball by the time it's going past the bat. She's looking at mid-wicket. She's almost thrown her neck out of whack. Like chiropractor Bill incoming. It looks so awkward and she misses it and gets bowled. And so that brings Wyatt in, and it's the next over when Alana King gets a ball to drift across Beaumont, pitch around about leg stump, turn back, hit her in front, she's given out, reviews it, and it's 1 millimetre outside the leg stump, so it's given not out. I mean, that's just morally out for mine. That is a bowler beating a batter. That was over the wicket, not around. It wasn't negative tactics or anything like that. It was just a good piece of bowling. One for the laws of the game committee to ignore for another 100 years. But I thought after that, there are a couple of overs where they clobber a couple of boundaries and they start to look, Wyatt and Beaumont start to look pretty comfortable against spin. And that's where I think Healy has to go, okay, get the new ball, get the quicks onto Wyatt because she likes to play, she likes to slash in the air through cover point and backward point, and she makes runs there in T20 cricket opening the batting, but she gets out there a lot as well. And that's where they didn't do that. They stayed with the old ball for another 15 overs or so. The last 10 overs with the old ball, they go for 47 runs. So I thought that was a captaincy mistake of just letting that drift for too long. And then they bring the new ball in, and four overs, 20 odd balls later, Wyatt slashes a catch into the cordon and she's held for 41.
Darcy Brown moved the ball, the first new ball as well. She can be erratic at times, but she's quick, she's got pace, and the ability to move the ball in the air and at times off the pitch as well. And it was slightly wide-ish delivery, but it was going further away, and Danny Wyatt just can't help herself. Like, she is someone, she sees width, she goes after it, and she's played like that in other formats. She's had to wait a long time for this Test debut, and look, she looked very competent while she was out there. Yeah, it was fun watching her bat. It was the first time it looked like one of the English batters had really taken the game by the scruff of its neck. I'm not going to use that term that gets used in men's cricket because that's a discussion for another day. But it was positive, attacking, aggressive batting, and you needed an innings like that to get the game moving at a fast pace. Tammy Beaumont was scoring at a fair clip as well, but I think it was the wide innings that pushed England through, and the second new ball worked, and then Talia McGrath comes and bowls that outstanding delivery to Sophie Eccleston, kind of completely squaring her up and hitting off. So we spoke a lot about the delivery that Lamb bowled to Alana King yesterday morning, but this was as better, if not better, as good, if not better than the one we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, that last bit cleaning up the tail, it ended up being, what was it, 4 for 15 after Eccleston got out, and so that was a difference. But Tammy Beaumont batting all the way through for 208. That's the 5th highest score in women's Test cricket. So Karen Rolton, Elise Perry, Mitali Raj and Kiran Balak are the only 4 with better scores in a Test match. She was so good on the pull shot. I mean, you don't have to bowl very short for it to be short to Tammy Beaumont because she's a very little player. But she was so confident rocking back any time they went short to her and crunching it away. She's less convincing when she throws the angled bat at the ball through cover, but she often hits it. It hits it in the middle of the bat. It doesn't look technically correct, but it works. And then when she drives down the ground, it is technically perfect. And to have the stamina, the stability, so she made 200 not out in the warm-up game against Australia a few days ago. That, for those wondering, that doesn't count as a first-class fixture because they had 13 English players and 12 Australian players played in that game. There were players who bowled who didn't bat. So it doesn't meet the qualification. It's a miscellaneous game in the qualifications. But there won't have been too many players who've made back-to-back double hundreds in competitive fixtures. I'm tipping probably DG Bradman did it 4 or 5 times at one point or another. But yeah, not a common thing. But we've never seen an England woman make a double hundred in any format. Hasn't happened. The highest England score was 189, and that was 1935. So they played their first Test matches in 1934, and then in 35 it's Betty Snowball, the wonderfully named, who makes 189, which remains the highest score for England for nearly a century. And then here we go. What are we? 12 years short of the century for Betty Snowball, and Tammy Beaumont makes it a double.
Betty Snowball also played lacrosse for her country. I found out. I had to do some Googling to find out more about her. And look, we're in an era where records get broken every day in cricket, right? Some record or the other. And there's so many more stats out there these days than what used to be in the past. But to be at this ground, to witness a record which had stood the test of time for 88 long years. You're talking before the Second World War. And a pretty significant, it's not one of those quirky stats, the highest score on a Tuesday type stat. This is a proper highest individual score for a country in a format. Yes, albeit women don't play as many tests as men do.
But in all formats.
And this was in all formats, and the one-day cricket, and we've seen a lot of 200 scores and double hundreds being scored in one-day cricket across the world in men and women's cricket. So it was a significant moment, and I'm kind of privileged to be there to witness that play out today. And I made sure I was with the crowd, and this really knowledgeable crowd which I've fallen in love with and I'm going to miss now that I'm leaving and going back to London. But Ken Kirk in particular. But they really seemed to savor that moment, and it was brilliant. That applause went on and on and on and on for quite a while. She didn't celebrate it too much. I mean, she was waiting to get to her double hundred to celebrate the double hundred, maybe just a little wave of the bat. But they acknowledged the significance of that moment, the highest ever score by an English woman. Who knows how long it'll stand? I mean, whether it'll hang around for 88 years, I doubt it. The rate at which runs are scored these days in cricket across formats. But yeah, Tammy Beaumont. All hail Tammy Beaumont.
It tends to be the way when a record's lasted a long time. Once it gets broken, it gets broken really quickly. But we will see. Beautifully played, Tammy Beaumont. As I always say on this show, don't wave your bat to me at 150, make 200 and wave to me then. Well, that's what she did.
She did.
Saluted the balcony. And yeah, it was a great moment to be here. Let's move on to the Final Word Hall of Fame. Final Word Hall of Fame, where we pick the moments that stood out to us today. I've got one for you, but first I'd like to know if you have one for me.
Mine is more an off-field one. Again, the knowledgeable crowd that I speak about. I saw this youngish man sitting with his 3 female companions, trying to impress them. He must have been in his 20s, maybe in his early 30s, trying to impress them with his deep, in-depth knowledge of fielding positions, which I was quite impressed by. They seemed pretty impressed by. I think I was more impressed with it than they were. But to think that, well, that is a topic, that is a subject that I can use to impress someone, or a female companion, for me, I think that's a big tick. That tells me he's a proper cricket nerd. And literally on cue, I remember England or Australia had someone at silly mid-on, and there was this an elderly gent sitting next to me with his partner, and she said something like, "Oh, I would never feel that close," and he immediately says, "Oh, silly mid-on used to be my position back in the day when I played." I was like, "Well done, mate." I mean, that's a show of courage, right? That's a very ballsy way of putting it. Hey, I was never scared of the ball 30 years ago. But this particular gentleman also saw Bradman bat and saw Bill Bose bowl here, so he's seen it all, and now he was there to witness Tammy Beaumont make a double hundred.
Wonder if he was there for Betty Snowball's 189. I've got one for you. Now, cricket is a sport where people fail a lot, so I don't want this to seem like a mean thing to note, but it is statistically, sometimes statistics are funny. Amy Jones, her history with Elise Perry is extensive. And when Amy Jones came out to bat today, the first thing Elisa Healy did was bring Elise Perry onto bowl immediately. This is because there's history. In 2019, I remember watching all of this unfold. The first ODI they played in the Women's Ashes here in 2019, the first ball Amy Jones faces from Perry, she's caught behind. The second ODI, she does very well for this series. She glances a ball for 4, and then she's caught at mid-wicket, fourth ball for 4. The third ODI, third ball, she's caught at mid-on off Perry. The first T20, she opens, she survives 2 balls from Perry and then gets out to Megan Shoot. The second T20, she opens, faces a wide from Elise Perry, then 2 more balls and is caught at cover. And the third T20, they move her down the order so she doesn't have to face Elise Perry, and she makes 19. So in that series, she was out to Elise Perry 4 times in 12 balls that she faced. And in the games where Elise Perry got her out, she was out 4 times in 10 balls. And so today, she comes out immediately. Beaumont, and I don't know if people picked up on this, she was farming strike. She probably would deny that, but she was trying to keep Jones away from the strike. So she faces 5 balls, gets a single off the 5th ball, gives Jones 1 ball to face from Perry, which she survives. Beaumont faces the entire next over from Perry, tries to get a single from the last ball and fails. And then Jones on strike in the next over, 3 balls in, chips 1 to mid-on, and she's out. So that makes it 5 times in, 5 times in 14 balls.
Wow.
That Amy Jones has been out to Elise Perry in this country over the last number of contests that they played. I mean, it is extraordinary in just about every way. And no surprise that they brought Perry on to bowl, who'd bowled 6 overs out of 104 to that point. But once Jones was at the wicket, well, there she was. I mean, that series of dismissals. Caught at mid-wicket, caught at mid-on, caught at cover, caught behind, caught at mid-on again. Not great.
Maybe they need to find a spot at the field where she hasn't been out to Perry and then, take that box as well. That's the only thing. No, maybe, yeah. We speak of some contests in cricket being one-sided. I think Perry has it over Amy Jones. It's safe to say.
You think?
Yeah, you would think so. But you could see that it was she was on a pitch where the balls come on well. For her to get almost a leading edge and for the ball to carry to mid-off, it was quite a strange shot, and a shot which was played sort of in desperation. It hit a couple of sweet boundaries before it of the other bowlers, but it happens, right? You just need to get that. It's almost like a band-aid you need to rip off, which she's just unable to rip off whenever Elise Perry is bowling to her. So, maybe the next time Tammy Beaumont should farm the strike better.
The Final Word Hall of Fame is brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. That's where you can go. If you were checking out the Major League Baseball in London over the weekend, you could go there, hit some home runs in Home Run House. You're going back there. You could be at Westfield tomorrow at Home Run House, and then you could go to the bat and ball, play a bit of ping pong.
Yeah.
Do some karaoke. There's everything you can do in terms of places to eat, play, shop.
I just saw Nathan Lyon and Jimmy Anderson throw the first pitch at that Cubs versus Cardinals game. So
did they?
Yeah, they just did. I just saw on social media. So maybe I'll do that as well. Maybe there's an option for me to just throw a pitch. Why not? Let's do it all. Yeah.
Do one. You can at Home Run House. I'm sure they'll let you throw a pitch out if you ceremonial first pitch when they open on Sunday morning. When you get down there to have a swing. At Westfield London or Westfield Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. Thanks to them for their support of the show. Thanks to you for watching the show. If you want to get involved with what we're doing, patreon.com/thefinalword. This has been the Ashes Daily, Women's Ashes Daily. Jeff Lemon, Bharat Sundaresan. We'll have day 4 tomorrow. Can't stop and we won't stop. See you soon.